I started to actually see being misunderstood as a bit of a gift. I think it's important to know what your boundaries are. And this goes back to really knowing yourself, because when we understand ourselves, we understand our values. When we understand our values, it becomes easier to set our boundaries. Resentment is a motherfucker. It is a poison, not only to your relationship, but especially to yourself. Anytime we care about somebody, you are always going to be put in a position where you are vulnerable, i.e., accessible to becoming hurt. It just comes with the territory. If you care about somebody, that means you can get hurt. Real talk, real wisdom. All heart, all in. This is The Roxanne Show. So in today's episode, I'm going to share some of my best answers to some of your amazing questions. I even got my iPad pencil. This is not an advertisement for Apple, but I guess kind of is. So let's get right into it. First of all, let me just say this, actually. These questions are so incredible. Every question that I get from any one of you is so deeply appreciated, valued. If you'd like to send me a question, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can go into my Instagram if that's where we're connected. I'm at Roxy Look. Heads up, that might change very soon to Roxanne Safai. But either way, plug in my name, Roxanne Safai, or go in the show notes and you'll find my Instagram if you're not already there with me. If you're not, I'd love to have you in that community. So you can send me a DM or you can do email, info@roxannesafai.com, also in the show notes. Also, if you're listening or watching this on Spotify, you can go ahead and leave the question there. There are so many ways, that's the point, to reach out to me, to connect with me, and I'd love to hear from you. And I'd love to answer a question that you would like to send to me. Okay, so let's go. Question number one. Ava from Melbourne, Australia. Hi, Ava. Hey, Roxy. I used to care so much about being understood by people. I'm learning to let that go, but it's still hard. Have you ever felt misunderstood? And what helped you get comfortable with being misunderstood and staying true to yourself anyways? That's such a it's a beautiful question. I deeply feel that, and I'll explain why in my answer. And I just want to say for clarity, so I feel that what you're saying here is that by being your authentic self, by being the truest you that you know to be, you feel that people misunderstand you often, and you're learning to let go of that, but you're still finding it challenging. Okay. So totally makes sense that it's not going to be an easy thing to navigate. I think it's just part of being a human that we really want to be understood. It means a lot of different things, and it'll, this depends on who you are, right? To be understood can mean I'm accepted. It means there's alignment here with you and the person. It means you're more easily lovable or likable. It creates more harmony, between you and whoever, you're connecting with. So it really ultimately means more connection. And we are here to feel that connection. So when we don't feel it, and especially if you feel misunderstood by people that you care about, that's where things get really extra hard. What I can tell you is that it was mostly my 20s where, I have journal pages where I really was going through a lot around this. I'm so misunderstood. And specifically from people that I really was close to, that I love, friends. And that was a real big challenge for me. There's so many moments in my journal where I would write, I just want to be understood. I just want to be understood. And I will tell you, for those reasons primarily that I listed at first, it was, connection. It was because also what I know to be true about myself, when that feels misjudged, misunderstood, it creates a sort of separation between me and that person that I love or that I care for, that I respect. And it just doesn't feel good at all, So that was really a big challenge for me as I was navigating my 20s. And then something started to shift in my 30s. In my 30s, I started to really understand more of myself. I did have writing my whole life has given me a very strong sense of self. And I don't want to overwhelm the episode with how and why that is. I talk about it frequently and I write about it on my Substack a lot in many different ways. But, it's the relationship that I've built with my true self on my pages. It's undeniable because it's so vulnerable. Every page, every thought, every experience, every bit of processing that I've been through in my journal has allowed me to really extract Roxanne, like true Roxanne. And again, this is over, I'm in my 4th decade, moving into my 5th, not yet, but we're getting closer. Maybe by the time you're listening to this or watching this, it may already be the case. So in my 30s, as I grounded more, even more so into my most authentic self, I started to actually see being misunderstood, not in every moment, but in most, as a bit of a gift. I'm a very dynamic woman. There's a lot of layers here. There's a lot of complexity to me. Like one of my pithy, poetic ways of expressing this is I am simply complex. Therefore, I understand why it could be hard for many to misunderstand me, right? There's a lot of depth and there's also, a lot of lightness to me, a lot of playfulness to me. The way that I think, the scope of my thinking, the scope of my consciousness, the altitude of my consciousness, my experiences, my passions, like all these various aspects of myself don't make it necessarily easy for me to be understood and even relatable a lot of times, right? What makes this also special is the idea that those who actually understand me, I feel a real sense of alignment with, like almost like we are meant to be friends or connected at that point of my life. It could be a small season or it could be for the rest of my life, whatever it is, depending on the depth of the connection, obviously, and the nature of the connection. But my point is to say that at one point, this challenge or this aspect of myself, my life that I was navigating that I once felt was really hard ended up turning into almost like a bit of a gift. And, the artist in me started to really honor it and cherish it. Like, fuck yeah, it's not going to be easy to understand me at all times. Now, of course, in my personal relationships, the idea is to have as much understanding with each other as we possibly can. And that's going to help, navigate the relationship in the most healthy, harmonious way. And I also understand that that's not always going to happen because at the end of the day, I'm me, you're you, he's him, she's her, right? And so what I'm inviting you to think about here, and it feels like you're already on the path, it's not so much to not care. It's seeing it from this other perspective that it's okay if people don't understand who you truly are or don't know how to connect with you, because there's a complexity to you. The uniqueness of you isn't going to make it necessarily easy for most everybody to just get you. And that doesn't mean that someone who doesn't get you right now can't get you later. It doesn't mean it's not a hard stop. But it is to say that we never want that anything, someone's inability to misunderstand us to start to generate some kind of insecurity in ourselves and who we are. And it doesn't seem like that's what's happening for you. So I am commending you for that. This is more of encouragement because you said that this is, it's hard. And you asked me if I've been through it. So the answer is a hard yes. Been through it deeply, deeply. And when I turned the corner on that, it was really fun for me. And it wasn't this rebellious, just trying to, put my hand to it. Like, no, I actually saw, wait a second. I think Oscar Wilde, I can't remember the exact quote. I should probably look it up. I'm going to look it up. We have this thing called a phone, and we have this thing called ChatGPT. Hold on. Oscar Wilde. It's too good to not. I'll leave you with this quote on Misunderstood. I think so. I'm pretty sure. Because I remember when I saw this quote, I was like, yeah. Okay. I knew it hit me for a reason when I saw it. I saw it so many years ago. It was probably in my 30s when I was turning the corner. Oscar Wilde famously said, "To be great is to be misunderstood." And then he also wrote, "I live in terror of not being understood." Oh, that's very Oscar Wilde. Let me just give you both sides of it. But I remember seeing that quote, "To be great is to be misunderstood." And, I think a lot of people who we all look up to could easily say that they have been and currently are still misunderstood in life. And I think we just need to accept that at times, that we're going to be misunderstood. And sometimes it's for a good reason. Sometimes it could be because you're not supposed to be, in agreement with that person for whatever reason. I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it. I'm just inviting you to hold steady in your most authentic self and to trust that, those who are really meant to understand you and that you are supposed to have an understanding with, even if you find yourself in a moment where, there's friction there, if it's somebody very close to you, somebody that you are meant to have, it could be a family member, it could be, your romantic partner, you'll find a way to understand each other at some point if it's not in the immediate. But outside of that, outside of your family, your immediate loved ones, I mean, those who don't understand you, that's okay. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to be true to who you truly are. So thank you, Ava, for that incredible question. All right, let's take out the pen. Let's see. Priya S. from India. I love the global community. Okay. Hi, Roxy. I had to set a boundary with a close friend recently, and it still feels uncomfortable. How do you handle it when a boundary feels right for you, but hurts someone you care about? Yeah. Okay. That's a big one. Boundaries are very important. I've done episodes about this. There's a variety of different kind of boundaries too. Boundaries against your physical body, boundaries against your psychological state, boundaries against your physical property. I mean, there's so many different kinds of boundaries, right? And I think it's important to know what your boundaries are. And this goes back to really knowing yourself, because when we understand ourselves, we understand our values. And when we understand our values, it becomes easier to set our boundaries in all kinds of ways, and meaning in all the different territories of boundaries that exist. So, I've definitely had to put boundaries in place over my life with friends, very close friends that deeply matter to me. And it's not easy to do that ever, but it's necessary for two reasons. Reason number one, because you need to stand with yourself. And if something feels violated in any way, as it pertains to keeping yourself in, a sense of security, a sense of integrity, these are two very important things. You gotta be willing to say, to say the hard thing, to put the boundary in place, because this is self-respect, right? This is self-respect. It could be self-protection. It's self-love, right? So that's very, very important. Now, it's also important to see that when you are being honest and putting a boundary up in place with someone that you care for, you're actually doing it for the benefit of both of you, for your relationship, meaning to keep the relationship in a high state of integrity and respect, you have to speak up. If you don't, what you're doing is you're creating I'll just frame it like this, you're putting a virus into that relationship. There's hidden energy in the relationship. And this is a big problem for a lot of reasons. I mean, for you, if you're the one that felt violated, or if anything just didn't sit right with you and you didn't speak up about it, well, you are going to silently build resentment against the person. And resentment is a motherfucker. It is a poison, not only to your relationship, but especially to yourself. The reason why you feel called to put a boundary in place is because it's like a disagreement with your soul, right? And the more that your heart, your authentic self, your soul, I'm kind of going to group that all together here because they really work together. The more that we lack the honoring of that kind of disagreement with our heart, soul, our authentic self, oh man, we're just creating hidden energy, the virus, we are building a case inside of ourself that isn't, you can't run from yourself. So it's only going to get worse. Because what's going to happen is not only will that resentment that you have around your friend or the individual that you didn't speak up on and you didn't put the boundary in place, but you're now going to start to feel a sense of shame against yourself. Because at the end of the day, if it was meant for you to enforce, then it was. And if you don't do that, you are silently just building energy that you don't want to carry internally, right? So we need to be okay with letting people that we love down sometimes, with even hurting people that we love. And do not take that statement and take it however you want to take it. I'm going to explain it deeply like this. Anytime we care about somebody, we're in a dynamic, we're in a relationship. This could be a friendship, it could be a romantic partnership. You are always going to be put in a position where you are vulnerable, i.e., accessible to becoming hurt. It just comes with the territory. If you care about somebody, that means you can get hurt. And so I understand in my friendships, I can get hurt. Does that mean my friend is going to hurt me? I understand that I can hurt my friend. Does that mean I want to hurt my friend? I'm trying to hurt my friend? Absolutely not, ever. And humans make mistakes. We do things at times where we're going to put ourselves in that position where I might let my friend down, or I might have said something that hurt my friend's feelings. And my intention is where that's the big part here, right? The intention. So never is it my intention to hurt anybody, and especially those that I love. Does that mean that I haven't? Does that mean that I couldn't? Of course not. Does that mean that I haven't been hurt by my friends or somebody who loves me? Of course not. So that feels like just foundational shit that we should all know. But, sometimes I think we need to hear those things to really understand them deeply, or maybe it's the thing you need to hear now. So I say that to you because if your friend is hurting, this person that you care for, that you put up a boundary is hurting, we can have a lot of empathy for that, and still hold that boundary that's necessary to keep you in a place of integrity, of vitality, and ultimately your relationship too. Now, if, the relationship falls apart because you put a boundary in place that was necessary for you, then that is maybe sort of a meant to be situation where, not every relationship is supposed to go the distance of life. And we need to be okay with that too. So, like all things relationship and really life, there's a lot of layers to this and it's really complex, but hopefully what I shared gives you some sense of soothing inside, because I can sense from your question, it's hard for you to know that you hurt your friend. I've had to do that, put a boundary up, and it sucked because I knew that, me speaking up and me laying it down and enforcing the boundary was someone that I really love and care for. It didn't feel good. It's like, you don't want to do that, right? You don't want to have to put up a boundary and fucking, give the whole speech and, the whole thing. And I also knew not only was it something that had to be done for my own well-being, but if I think about having a true, healthy, no hidden energy, no virus in the relationship, with this person, or, there's been, again, this has happened more than one time in my life, then I owe it to the relationship, even if my friend on the other end didn't really feel good about taking the boundary in. But if it's a real strong friendship connection, then you guys will be able to handle that, and you'll move on with more respect for each other. And I think even more care and love, and ultimately more trust. Because anytime you're keeping shit inside, there's a fracture there. So I hope that really centered you. Great question. Next. Okay, Mateo from Austin. Hi, Mateo. Hey, Roxy. Have you ever hit a point where you're doing something you really love that really mattered to you, but it got so hard you wanted to quit? What helped you keep going when it could have been easier for you to walk away? I'm all just going through the files of my life right now. Like, oh man, always honest. It's like, I don't need to set it up with, to be honest. It's really me just scanning in this moment. There's only one moment of segment where it wasn't about quitting. It was about me really deeply questioning, is this thing that I'm doing really good for me? Should I walk away from it? Right. And this is like my early 20s. And so I wouldn't even frame it as quit, but it was a high level consideration of being so deep in the game, of this stage of my career life. I was doing events where, I just wasn't, there was a lot of tension and friction and partnership and things that were happening that weren't always, great and healthy, to where I had to really consider. But then there were a lot of circumstances and experiences that were really just epic. So I really had to think at several points throughout that really thick chapter, is this really the best thing for me to do? And, eventually I would move on and not, stay in. But I probably stayed longer than maybe was in my best interest. But I can look at that whole big ass chapter with so much respect for myself, because there was a lot of growth that happened, a lot, wisdom that I still pull on today. Now, outside of that, no. And when I say no about quitting, I want to be clear why. Because I have only thrown myself into work or mission pursuits of things that I very deeply connect with. Now, was all of that supposed to be the rest of my life stuff? Absolutely not. I mean, this is end of the life. Like, this is it, not this is it like it's the only thing, but meaning this is a core part of my fucking life purpose at this point, right? Because it's self-expression and it's just so deeply woven into the fabric of my existence at this point, right? My writing, my podcasting, speaking, sharing, creating. But there were, things that I've done, 20s and 30s, and where I deeply was connected to the pursuit, to the, sort of end goal that I was looking at. But ultimately it was, just leading me to get here, right? And in many of those segments and those chapters, in fact, in all of them, I was getting my ass kicked left and right, because I've never done anything really traditional. It was like either I was super fucking grassroots company, or, freelancing. I mean, my makeup career was intense. Anytime you freelance, any one of you know who freelances, this shit is no joke. It is hunt to eat. It is, you're only as good as your last job. You have to go through so many valleys to get to a peak, and it's a real big challenge, and it served me incredibly well in terms of like self-development and just, all the attributes and, qualities like perseverance and grit and resourcefulness and, all of that stuff that to this day, I lean into, right, for my life as an entrepreneur. But I never felt like I wanted to quit. And that didn't mean that I wasn't bleeding at times. It's more to say that when you are truly, deeply, deeply connected from a heart space point to the thing that you are pursuing, you move with a different energy. You have there's an essay in my book that, God, I want to share this with you. Like, oh man, I can't wait to share it with you. But there's an archetype, a real person that I use in this essay to illustrate what I'm sharing with you, which is when you are really operating from your dharma, from something that really is you believe on a heart and soul level that you came here to express into the world, you're just going to be able to pull off a different energy source. And when I say energy source, I don't mean just high energy to get up and get after it. I'm especially referring to your resilience. Your resilience. You'll just be able to take just so many more hits and fucking get right back up. I'm not saying you're not going to feel the bruises. I'm not saying you're not going to be sore. No, you're going to be all of that, and you're still going to fucking get up and keep going. And so that is something that I can say I have done throughout my life, like as a through line, still to this day, more than ever feeling the sort of feeling of quit. Because, I mean, even I'll just pull on this now and kind of wrap this out now, but there are so many moving parts to my career, to my mission when you're building, when you're a builder, when you're building. And by the way, that's just one aspect of my life, right? I mean, I'm also a woman who has hormones and goes through things, like, you know what I mean? And personal life too. So there's all kinds of things happening at all times. And sometimes it's really hard, man. It stretches you. It pulls on, my courage has to go toe to toe so often with, uncertainty, and uncertainties sort of, some of the, like, it's like the visual that comes to my mind is funny, like the fangs of uncertainty is beautiful. We love it. We need it. I embrace it. I don't want anything but it. But, I don't want to be certainty out here is not what I'm looking for. It's always about the certainty in here, certainty in self, right? This out here being uncertain means opportunity, possibility, anything can happen. Fuck yeah. Want that. I want to be certain in myself. And a lot of times, when you're navigating the dark road of uncertainty and the unknown, your trust and your courage just, is really just being asked to show the fuck up on very robust and powerful levels. So if you are in a place right now where you feel challenged to the point where you're considering to quit, then what I'm going to invite you to think about is the thing that you're doing really the thing that you want to pursue in your life? And if that answer is, I don't really know, then I think you need to ask yourself some more questions to really get to the truth, because the truth in you does know. And what's hard sometimes is people not wanting to embrace that truth. In fact, I would say most times you actually know the answer. But if, for example, your answer is, no, it's not the thing, that can mean your whole fucking identity has to change. That can mean your whole lifestyle has to change. That can mean you have a whole slew of questions now that you don't have answers to. How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to do this? All the things. So it's a lot easier to avoid that truth. But you can't avoid the truth, because avoiding the truth is avoiding you, and you cannot avoid you. You could try, but that's how a lot of people go into places that are not healthy, that are not good. You ultimately cannot run from yourself. And the sooner that we really make sense of this and embrace that, the sooner we can get to the real work that allows us to build the life that we truly want to live, even if it means it's going to be really hard to do it. That's okay. But at least you know where you stand, and you know you're making true moves now in your life. One of my quotes, you can't make a wrong move when you make a true move. And those are the only moves that come from your heart. So maybe the thing for you to do right now is to really connect with your heart, to ask yourself, you know, is this thing that I'm doing right now the thing that I truly want to invest my life in? And if it is, and you're just battled, you know, bruised and bloody, well, then I understand. And do what you need to do to recalibrate, to recover, and get fucking back up, get into it, and keep going, because it's obviously worth it to you. I relate. I get that. Those were incredible questions. Honestly, I feel like I need to stop here because there was a lot in each question's answer. And, you know, I think a lot of times when we're taking in information, it's so important to have moments of just pausing and reflecting so that retention can happen. You know, if there is anything that I've shared that you think is worthy and of value to retain, then this is really that moment where we pause and we just get quiet and let, you know, what you just took in, you know, be metabolized. And I will always say that journaling is always a good idea. You know, if there's anything that came up for you from these questions and from my answers, it's always a good idea to take your mind and your heart onto your pages. I mean, I accredit journaling to be one of the most supportive tools I've ever leaned on in my life to really develop myself and ultimately help me develop the life that I'm living. So if you want some journaling support, I am your girl. Come hang out with me and my incredible club of just heart-centric women in my Substack. We do challenges 4 times a year. It's my Heart Alchemy Writing Challenge, and it's truly life transformative. And that is not me just selling you on the challenge. I've got the receipts. I've got the women who, you know, their testimonials or videos. I mean, it's really just, it's so special for me because ultimately they're the ones doing the work, right? I'm just helping to set them up to do the work. And I mean, what comes through on the page is incredible. So whether you're going to journal on your own or you are going to come into my Substack, and if you do want to do that, show notes, description, my website, you know, it's not hard to find me and to join. I would love to have you and to carry you through some of my challenges and ultimately just support you to, you know, live your greatest life. That's what we came here to do. So thank you so much again for the questions. If you have questions, again, DM me on Instagram, info@Roxanne Safai. All the information is in the show notes, and I'll see you on the next one.